What's up everybody, it's George Gabriel and this is part 2 of Pro Tracks using stock Logic sounds and plugs only. Now in part 1 we set the basis of the track, getting the basic rhythm and the basic strings down. But in part 2 there's going to be some really cool pivotal things. We're going to be adding some sound design and hits. We're going to be tweaking the low horns to add the mod wheel to get that crescendo sound. We're going to be altering the stock timp with an additional surprise track to make it sound more subby. And we're going to address the problematic strings that we had by putting some supplemental solo strings over it. And you might be surprised at some of the choices we make. Let's check it out. In order to get these sounding real, we're going to have to add some more supplemental strings, maybe some just violas or violins or something that are different samples, and kind of get them a little bit more wide so they sound a little bit more real. But right now we're just building this up. Now in this case, I like to have something that's kind of a grating cinematic sound that's kind of sound designy and kind of patty at the same time to give it a little angst, a little something against the grain here. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead on our fourth instrument and we're going to open up Alchemy. And let's see if we can find some sort of pad that is more ambient and perhaps evolving. I don't know if this is going to be it, but let's see what we have here. It's got to be a little bit more subtle. None of these are subtle. This is about close. Let's see, this is got a warm trickle. Let's see what it sounds like in phasing mode. I'm gonna go with a phasing. Now, so I'm going to capture that. Our biggest issue is on the stop when we're going to the fifth. Now this thing's got the root key kind of coming over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to automate just a mute on it, basically. And so I'm going to go into latch mode here, and I'm going to just mute it right at the cut. That goes away. Now I can replace it with something else, like some sort of cool ambient hit sound that's in the right tone. But the idea here is I'm trying to get something that is different. So when I go to automate this, sometimes this does not work properly. So I'm going to go out of latch mode and go to read mode. So now over here, it should be open. Now it should stop. Perfect. So now I can hit some sort of boom. Now I'm going to go and say this is a low pad, and let's go ahead and name it. Save your session. You always want to save. Even though Logic has a really good auto save, I still save. Now I feel like it needs some sort of a so OrgKit's got some great sounding either cymbals or gongs. Let's see what they have. Now this is nice because you can just do like a little, and that adds a little bit more wispiness. You want to kind of fill this stuff out with some different kind of sonic things. Those little gongs, and it just gives it a nice little texture. And one of my favorite things at OrgKit is this reverse cymbal. And what's cool is when you let go of it, it just stops. I want to actually put that in towards the end here. Cool. Now I'm getting that kind of crescendo in there. And the thing that's tricky about this little thing is you have to time it right. It works pretty well in 120 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's kind of meant for that. But when you're doing different time signatures or you're doing different tempos, you can find that it's a little bit more difficult to deal with. Now I kind of got this cool into like sucking the air out. Now I need a sound to get to the other side of that. So, and we're still not done tweaking the strings and everything like that. Okay, so I want some sort of bong. Now, there are a bunch of options. We could go back into Alchemy. We can do, if we go back into the multi-sampler here, there are some multi-samples that are like textures. They have cinematic textures. They have ambient environments, drones. A drone might have been a good thing to put under this, but it really, or effects. Let's see, trailer effects. Let's go with the effects and let's see what kind of sounds we have. And we'll just kind of audition some of these. Well, that's not right. You can make this techie by doing this. Hey, let's just put that in and see what it sounds like. Kind of like the little tech element. Okay, I'm going to capture that. I'm gonna do the second so it's a little bit more techie, almost using it like a snare. All right, cool. I kind of like this little disruptive burst. I'm just going to call it tech burst. And you'll notice I'm trying to get the naming so it's not like huge long-winded names. So I'm going to go ahead and name regions by tracks. And now in this case, it's going down synth 1, but I'm going to bus this to my loops because it's kind of acting like a loop. But I want to actually do some other techie sounds over this now. I'm going to go back to the multi-sample and trailer effects. I try to stay away from this stuff too much, but sometimes it's a good little sub mover. Sometimes that's just something subtle like that, even this. I do want some decay in it though. But these two kind of work. But we can actually use this in the beginning too. Okay, that kind of works. So we're just going to use this as trailer effects. Again, I use the more subtle ones. I want some air movers. I want some things on the low end. Trailer effects 2. And what I'm going to do with these, I'm going to put this on the hits bus because the hits bus is meant for these kind of hits. So here we go. All right, so what we're missing here is some low horns. Now, Logic's horns are really not meant for orchestral, unless you're gonna use maybe some trumpets as a supplemental, but it's really not the kind of horns that we're looking for. The kind of horns that we're looking for is that kind of low orchestral. So we're not gonna use studio horns. What we're gonna do is we'll go to the multi-sampler and we'll go back to that legacy orchestral library. I'm going to go to orchestral, I will go to brass, and now let's see what kinds of things we have. Now we could try full brass, but I don't really like, I like to do horns separately. So what I'm going to do is, let's just see what trombone's legato sounds like. They're really not that bad, especially if you go ahead and put that bus effect on it. Now they don't really have a crescendo here, so you have to fake your own crescendo here. So if we look at this, we got staccato, we got legato, and we've got plus. So plus extends the keyboard range to beyond what a trombone can play. So all the way down to the bottom of your keyboard. But what we really need to do here is build these crescendos in. And how we're going to do that is we're going to use this mod matrix area. And I'm just going to go to the key area in my second one here, source. And my target is going to be the filter cutoff. And I'm going to go all the way to 100%. And I'm going to do that via the mod wheel. Now I got to turn that filter on because this is where we can really kind of get some cool sounds. If you are just manually doing this, you kind of get that same vibe. Now we're putting it to the mod wheel. So let's mess with this a bit here. Let's invert the key. Add a little drive to this, give it a little bit more of a push. I need to invert the mod wheel too, because I want it, when it's all the way down, I want it to be. Cool. So now let's see if we can get that going here. Okay, we're going to capture that. We're going to call this low bones and name that. So now we get this crescendo built in. Now I added a little one root and fifth at the end there to kind of build it up. So I might do the same with French horns. Now let's go ahead and go to the multi-sampler, go to my orchestral, brass, and French horn. There is a French horns crescendo. But the biggest problem you're going to have with that is exactly what you hear there. When you're doing an octave, they don't crescendo at the same time. So what we'll do instead is use the regular French horn plus. We don't really need the plus, but let's just use it anyway. It gives us a full range of the keyword. Obviously, you're not going to use, but you might. You never know. We're going to do the same thing. Open up that filter, and we're going to go to key. We're going to go, the target is the filter cutoff. We're going to add a little drive to that. We're going to make that go to 100. We're going to do it via the mod wheel. We're going to invert the mod wheel. We're going to invert the key. And now we should have the same effect with the French horn. Let's make sure we got this going down to 0. That's part of the problem. So you want this to be at 0. Invert the key. Let's go ahead and label this French horn, legato, and I'm going to go ahead and put that reverb, that orchestral reverb we have on FX1. So now if you move this too fast, you can kind of hear it's a little janky here. So now let's go ahead and add that in. I did a walk up. I was working the mod wheel. Capture that. Now it clashed with the little fifth I put on here, so I'm going to get rid of this fifth. I could do that walk with the bones too, but I'm not. I'm just going to keep that with the French horns. So I want some sort of boom, because that's, I'm going to do like a boom, and that go into whatever melody we do after this. Let's find that sound. So I think I'm going to go back to the multi-sample and go to maybe those trailer effects or some sort of drone or some sort of hit. I don't know. Let's go ahead and see what we've got here. Let's go to textures, effects. Let's try trailer effects 1. See, I want it to be tonal, like gum. So maybe we don't go to this. Maybe we actually go to the Alchemy because we want some sort of bum. Let's see what we can find here. Let's see what we got here. Almost. Let's get that delay off of this thing. Let's just see what that sounds like. Okay, we're just going to use that. Okay, and we're going to just call that the hit. And we're going to actually put that on the hits bus. Boom. So now I still want another like gong. So let's try to find a timp now. Logic timps are not great, not gonna lie. They're my least favorite timps around. And a timp is kind of important for a drama piece. So we're gonna go to the Logic timps, which are going to be in the orchestral area under tuned percussion. And let's see, they've got single strokes timpani. Lame. But we're gonna add that in and then we're gonna supplement it. So let's go ahead. Now I'm going to put that on the orchestral bus. This is really not speaking too much here. So in this case, on this particular track, I'm going to go ahead and put a compressor on it and see if I can make it sound a little bit more beefy. Let's go to our drums. That gives a little bit more. Now I want to give some EQ to this too because I'm not really getting the low end a timpani should give. So let's do a little shelf on this, which is a bit ridiculous. Let's add a little top end there as well. I kind of want to get the strike of it all. It's a bit of a ridiculous EQ curve, but sometimes you just need to do that. I do want to do something different as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to supplement this timp. There's two different ways I can go. I can go ahead and use the multi-sampler just. This is a great sine wave. Now, what I can do is just tweak this using the amp. So we want to have some natural decay here. We'll just copy this down and see what it sounds like. So it actually gives it some sub. Now I'm gonna actually drop this down an octave by going to my transpose and dropping it an octave. Let's see what that sounds like. There we go. So now I've made this timpani instead of this. It is this. Yeah, baby, moving some air. So I'm going to call this timp sub, and I'm just going to name that region. I'm just going to call this timp because it's got too many letters in it. And I'll change this as well. So now I'm kind of seeing everything that I've got here. Now I still want to address these strings because I'm completely not convinced that they feel real. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my multi-sampler. And now I'm going to go to some sort of individual strings and kind of beef these out a little bit. Let's go with orchestral strings, violins, that's more than one, staccato. What we're going to do is throw that reverb on there. Okay, let's go ahead and put that on the strings bus. I'm going to go ahead and move this up by the other strings so they can be in the same family there. So I'm going to just do Vio stock. Again, I want to make sure that I don't have too many words here. And I'll go ahead and do with some violas as well. So we will go to orchestral, strings, violas, staccato. Now what I'm going to do is I'll add these in, and then I'm going to kind of stretchen them out with pans here. Go ahead, put that on the strings bus. Let's go ahead and throw the FX on it. Now I'm going to pan this to the right at around 26, and I'll pan the violins to the left. Now I just want to test one more thing out. I'm going to go to the studio strings and just see if a sol staccato. Let's try spiccato. Okay, different texture, different sound, different styles. So let's just go violins. Let's see if they have a small section. All right, just so it says disco strings doesn't mean that it's actually, can't be used for orchestral. You gotta just try some things out and see what happens. So I'm using the disco strings, spiccato, and I'll throw some verbiage on there. All right, let's try that. So I'm going to name these, I'm going to put them on the string bus, move these up so all these strings can be together. Now at this point you might want to color code this. I'm not going to do that right now, but I've got timps, I got hits, I've got horns, I've got different things. So I might try to group these together so I can see them a little bit better. Let's just solo the strings here. Now what I want to do is get a good balance here. Let's just go ahead and start soloing these. It's kind of pre-mixing along the way. Ooh, there's a clam in there. There it is. That's a clam too. Get rid of your clams. I might drop these down an octave. They kind of sound a little bit too similar, so I'm going to go ahead and drop these down. All right, cool. So that's the end of part 2. In part 3, we're going to fill out the rest of the track. We're going to add some more strings, some more rhythm, some more melody lines, and some other surprises. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, click that subscribe button, click the bell icon to be notified of future videos. Follow me on Instagram at @GGabrielMusic, and check out the all-new GeorgeGabriel.com where you can find out more about me and get your hands on some of the templates of some of the prior videos I've done. Look forward to seeing you at part 3. Until then, this is George Gabriel Music.